That fence stood for almost 100 years, hand-built by my grandfather in 1925, same year he finished the log cabin that's been in my family ever since. It had weathered more storms than I could count, stood up to ice, fire, even a runaway logging truck back in '78, but it didn't survive Lorraine Whittaker and her damn HOA clipboard. Yeah, that's how this starts. Not with a bang, not with some dramatic land war, just with a fence. My fence. And a woman who decided it didn't match her lakefront vision. See, I live out on Wren Lake, not one of those massive, polished resort lakes you see on Instagram, but a quiet place where the trees still creak when the wind's right and the water smells like pine. My family's been there for generations. I was born in that cabin, left for a while military, then carpentry, then trying to keep my daughter Lucy steady after we lost her mom, but I came back, hoping for peace. What I didn't expect was a war over cedar planks and property lines. Lorraine Whittaker, president of the Wren Lake HOA, rode up one morning in a white BMW with tinted windows, wearing heels that had never seen dirt. She knocked on my door like she owned the damn mountain, smiled real tight, handed me a letter and said, "You need to remove that fence. It violates the community's aesthetic." I stared at her. "Mom, this isn't your land." She smiled even wider, like I was a toddler arguing about bedtime. "Actually, Mr. Ron, this area's been under Wren Lake HOA jurisdiction since the charter was amended in 2006. You must have missed that in your closing documents. Now, I bought that land in cash. I know what I signed. There was no HOA, no clause, nothing, just a clean deed and a handshake from old Mr. Hallie, who was more than happy to sell to someone who remembers when a porch swing meant something. I told her as much, but she didn't blink. Just gave me this pitying look and said, "Well, I suppose you have to speak with legal." And then she left, heels clicking on my gravel like punctuation marks. Let me back up a sec. This fence. It wasn't just a property line. It was history. Every board was hand-milled from trees my grandfather cut himself. He'd carved initials into one post for every generation born there. My daughter Lucy helped me repaint it the year her mom passed. That fence held stories, it held us together. So no, I didn't take it down. 3 days later, I came home from town and found bulldozer tracks in the dirt, sawdust in the wind, the fence gone. Just gone. Splinters everywhere, the post with Lucy's initials cracked clean in two. And standing there, phone in hand like she was filming a documentary about progress, was Lorraine Whittaker. "I warned you," she said. "This is what happens when people ignore procedure." I didn't say anything, not right then. But something flipped inside me, like an old circuit powering up. Because if she thought this was gonna be some quiet little intimidation game, she picked the wrong guy to push. I started digging. Turns out, the Wren Lake HOA was never registered properly with the county. No legal authority. Just a bunch of rich newcomers who bought up shoreline lots and created their own rules. The charter Lorraine mentioned. It was a Word doc printed on letterhead. No legal filing number, no seal, just nonsense dressed up as law. But it got worse. A few days later, her younger sister Mia, total wild card, always in yoga gear, always high on green smoothies and conspiracy podcasts, dropped by my porch like a squirrel on Red Bull. Said she was done covering for the family, and casually mentioned Lorraine had plans to build a private road right through my property, connect the new development to the yacht club across the ridge. I laughed, thought it was a joke. Until Mia spilled her green sludge all over a folder of permits and I saw the parcel number, mine. That's when I started pulling threads. County records, old surveys, archive deeds, everything I could get my hands on. And buried in a dusty box at the assessor's office was something even Lorraine didn't know existed, a federal designation from 1925 naming my grandfather as the environmental guardian of Wren Lake. The designation passed down with the land, and guess who holds it now? Yeah, Me. That title gives me final authority over any land use changes within a 2-mile radius of the lake. Meaning every villa Lorraine sold, every dock she installed, every tree she cleared without approval, all of it was in violation. Every last bit. So while she was busy staging her little HOA meetings and sending fake citations, I was building a real legal case. And then, twist of fate, Mia found something else. Tucked in a storage box in Lorraine's garage, a contract with a Chinese mining firm. Turns out, this whole HOA thing wasn't just about power or property values, it was about lithium. Lorraine planned to drain part of the lake, sell the mining rights, and walk away with a $200 million deal. She wasn't preserving the lake, she was gutting it from underneath. That's when I went public. I released the documents, the old federal charter, the mining contracts, even clips from Lorraine's meetings, where she referred to my family as the last holdout. I didn't have a fancy PR team, just my voice, a phone, and a town that suddenly realized they were being lied to. Within a week, environmental groups showed up. Journalists. Protesters with signs. Lorraine tried to spin it, called me a fraud, even had the nerve to accuse me of fabricating legacy rights. But Mia, God bless her, went live on social media, crying into her phone, holding up baby pictures from the old cabin her parents once owned. Turns out, Lorraine had forced them out years ago under the same fake rules, bulldozed their home and built her mansion on top of it. People lost it. Donations poured in for legal fees. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years started organizing. Lorraine tried one last stunt, brought in private security to block off the road to my cabin. Claimed it was unsafe for community values. But I had one final card to play. I filed an emergency injunction with the state using my authority as environmental guardian. And 72 hours later, the federal marshals showed up, badges shining, documents in hand, and seized the entire development under environmental protection law. I stood on my porch with Lucy, watched Lorraine get escorted off her property, shouting about heritage and property rights, and all I could think was, heritage doesn't mean a damn thing when it's built on lies. The villas were shut down. The mining deal dissolved. Lorraine was charged with fraud, racketeering, illegal land seizure, even environmental negligence tied to a landslide she caused during unauthorized excavation. And me. I rebuilt that fence. Slower this time. With Lucy beside me, hammer in hand, asking if her initials could go a little higher this year. We carved them in together. And now every time I walk past that post, I remember what this fight was really about: not land, not power, not some HOA fantasy. But legacy. Integrity. A reminder that the loudest people in the room aren't always the ones with the right. So tell me, was I wrong to fight this hard? Or was she just too used to winning to believe someone like me would ever push back? Let me know what you think. Because sometimes all it takes is one bulldozed fence to bring the whole damn house of cards crashing down. And if you've ever gone up against a petty HOA or a neighbor with too much money and not enough decency, trust me, I'm all ears.